good news on Oregon's hunt for the playoff.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Offensive line concerns, are they real, imaginary, somewhere in between? That might be fun to explore. So I'm going to do that on the second segment of today's show. Evan Stewart as well. But let's start with a playoff picture here in Oregon's bye week. Now, Iowa should be ranked, and that's the bad news for Oregon as they look to build a playoff resume. If they go 4-0 in the month of November, win every game, they will be into the college football playoff. I have no questions about that. At 10-2, they should be in. Will they be in? I don't know. Because the committee might look at the Penn State win and view it as I do, which is Penn State was a really good team, and because of the years and years and years they spent being so close, Oregon beating them on their home field when they were off a bye just broke them mentally, derailed their season, and sent the program into a tailspin, which is indeed what happened. But if the committee just looks at it with a straight resume assessment and goes, well, Penn State isn't ranked. Penn State, at this point in time, they play Ohio State this week. They're not going to win that game, and they haven't won a Big Ten conference game. They might only win a couple this year. Well, maybe that doesn't do anything for Oregon. So if that's the case, then Iowa not being ranked coming into this game isn't ideal. On the flip side, Iowa wouldn't be anywhere closer than maybe 20. They'd probably be like in the 21, 22 range. That's where they should be ranked. I've got them inside my top 25 over in Locked On College Football, but of course, that's not what the AP voters are looking at. They should be looking there, but alas, they are not. So Iowa would certainly help. Minnesota's a solid team, but not ranked, nor are they going to wind up ranked. The good news, though, is that USC has entered the top 25. The not ideal news for now is that Washington isn't ranked. And I'm going to be completely and totally honest, which is what I always am anyway here on the show. Washington should be ranked. There's not a good reason why the Huskies are not in the top 25 after they beat Illinois by 17 last week, who was ranked. Washington beats them soundly and doesn't get ranked at 6-2. Like, does that make sense? No, it doesn't. But if Washington wins their next 3 games, they'll be favored in all of them. They could be 9-2 going into the matchup with Oregon. I don't see how a 9-2 team isn't at least inside the top 25. So the way that teams finish the year certainly is going to come into play. 10-2 should get Oregon in the playoff. 9-3 will not. 9-3 should not, and that's not where my head is at for the Ducks as they get ready for this November slate. But if they are able to beat Iowa, who's been playing really good football, Minnesota, who's solid but not elite, you play them at home, USC, hopefully the Trojans will still be ranked at that time. And then if you win that game, you can probably go into Washington. If Oregon wins their next 3 games, of course Washington is a game that you want to win every single year for a number of reasons. But if Oregon wins their next 3 and they're at 10-1 going into a road game against a top 25 Washington team, I'd struggle to see how they wouldn't wind up making the play. It's not a 100% guarantee. 11-1 with where they're at right now, yeah, that's a 100% guarantee. Whether or not people think that is right, fair, just, that's how the committee's going to view it. If Oregon wins their next 4, take care of business, leave no doubt. They might even get a home playoff game in that scenario. So I think Oregon's current playoff position is good because they control their own destiny. If they were to lose to Iowa or USC going into the Washington game, that could look like a must-win. And that could be quite the showdown in Seattle if that were to happen. Just think about this hypothetical. Let's say Oregon loses to Iowa, beats Minnesota and USC, and Washington goes 3-0. Both teams are 9-2 going into a rivalry game. It's probably winner goes to the playoff at that point. Probably. Not a guarantee, but probably. So from a playoff standpoint, that is where things stand. Zaheem sent this question in. What are the chances Oregon gets a home playoff game? If they win every game from here on out, very high. I don't see Indiana losing a game on their schedule. I don't see Ohio State losing a game on the rest of their schedule. They're on a collision course for the Big Ten championship game. Even if Indiana does lose one, because Oregon doesn't have the head-to-head, Indiana would actually have to lose 2 for the Ducks to go to Indianapolis for a second straight year. And do we care about that? Not really. I don't. Anyway, it's become, because of the 12-team playoff, the same as the conference tournaments in college basketball. Not the exact same, because you can't have the Cinderella component to get an automatic bid, but it's just an opportunity to improve seeding, which, is a good thing now this year after last year's whole debacle in which Oregon was on the wrong end of the weird, terrible seeding system that we all knew was bad. Anyway, so I don't see how Oregon gets to Indianapolis. I don't think they need to. Don't know that they should necessarily want to, and a home playoff game sounds great. If Oregon wins their next 4 games, and their only loss is to Indiana, who's either the runner-up or the Big Ten champion and a top 5 team in the country, yeah, the chances that Oregon would get a home playoff game, pretty high. Pretty high. They're currently sitting 6th in the AP poll, a couple weeks. I think November 8th is when the first playoff committee rankings are scheduled to come out, and we'll see where they fall in that. But you do still have the bye structure where the 4 highest-ranked conference champs are going to be, or the 4 highest-ranked teams, rather, who are likely, but not necessarily conference champions, are going to get that first round bye. And you're going to have the SEC champ, the Big Ten champ, and Indiana or Ohio State probably ahead of Oregon, even if the Ducks go 11-1 in the regular season. So I would imagine that sets up pretty well. If Oregon goes 11-1, if I were to Spencer scale of agreement that particular question there, Zaheem, I'd go with about a 7.5 that they'd wind up with a home playoff game. At 10-2, your chances are pretty slim. Not impossible. Ohio State was 10-2 last year, and they had a home playoff game against 10-2 Tennessee. So at that point, I think it would drop down to about a 5. That the Duck, if they were to lose to Iowa, and then it'd be hard to get themselves back up. But if they beat USC and Washington, who are both ranked inside the top 20, when those games happen, that could bolster the resume a pretty good amount, get them back to the home playoff picture. But win your next 4 games. Frankly, I'll go with an 8. I'll go with an 8, actually, that Oregon would get a home playoff game. There's a chance, I suppose, that they could sneak their way into getting a bye once again, for whatever that is worth. But a home playoff game at Austin would be pretty awesome. So, on the other end of the spectrum, Skirt Mayo sent this one in. Spencer, if Oregon doesn't make the playoffs, who would you like to see them play that would be a competitive and close game? You're the man. Well, thank you. That's very nice. But if they don't make the playoff, I don't even know if I want to entertain that possibility. What team? Ooh, Utah. Utah would be fun. Utah is a good team. I don't know if Utah is a great team, but Utah is a good team. And the old Pac-12 connection, I'd go with Utah on that one. But as for the playoff, Oregon controls their own destiny. Resume should be good enough at 10-2, is definitely good enough at 11-1. So at this point, I know some of you are still frustrated with the Indiana loss, but when you're going into the month of November and you control your own fate to make the playoff, it's a good spot to be in. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. What about the offensive line? First, this episode brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. When I'm looking for a car, which I've only done a couple times in my life, 2 things that I want: reliability and safety. Those are top of my priority list. Mazda gives you both of those things. Again, more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August of this year. And they have all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, so you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And if you saw or felt the rain in Eugene on Saturday, you know how important it is to trust your car can get through any kind of weather. And it's not going to get any easier. November's around the corner. If I remember my elementary school education, December comes after that. You could see some snow, ice. You want to have every bit of confidence that you need that you're going to be able to get from point A to point B safely. That's what cars are about. That's what Mazda is all about. Like Oregon's players, they sweat every detail at Mazda because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Let's talk O-line. It's on the mind of at least one of you out there and some others, I'm sure, as well. Grant sends in this take for Spencer Scale Agreement, or SSA. If you're new here and you're wondering what in the world I'm talking about, you send in a take. I give you 1 to 10, including half numbers, but no other decimals. How much I agree with it, explain my reasoning. Can be about anything Oregon related. So, Grant says, SSA, is it time to look for a new O-line coach? Ouch. Terry, I think, is good, but last year, that's an interesting dichotomy there. Terry, I think, is good, but last year was actually year 2, and it started to show cracks, but Gabriel covered up a lot with experience. Is it time to look for another O-line coach when Stein leaves? It's interesting you say, on the one hand, I think this is a very advanced level of confidence as an Oregon fan to say, hey, this guy's good, but is it time to fire him? Like, that's pretty good. It's not the worst place to be. It beats being at the other end of the spectrum. Hey, this guy isn't any good, but could we do any better? Like, glad you're not there. But no, this is a 1. Oregon's offensive line is good. Now, to be clear, they have had 2 games this season in which they have not played particularly well. The sack numbers against Wisconsin and against Indiana, unacceptably bad. 10 sacks combined in those games. No surprise that, of course, resulted in Oregon not playing well. Now, those are 2 defenses that are good. Wisconsin's is, I think, closer to average than good. You know, they got blown out big time before they played the Ducks last week, and I think that's a function of the defense allowing points because they're on the field so much because the offense can't sustain a drive. Not that their defense is incredible. It's not. I was critical of Oregon's offense, talked about that all week on the show. I'm just saying it's not exactly Oklahoma State or Montana State. It's a step up from that. It's a step up from the Beavs. But I think it kind of is in the Northwestern range defensively. They just don't have enough personnel on that side. They don't have enough offense to give them enough breaks and play complementary football, set them up for success, anything like that. But no, the reason I say this is a 1, you know, Oregon did wind up as a top 12 finalist for the Joe Moore Award last year, which I thought was generous and more about the pass blocking than the running. This year, though, the offensive line has hit a big, giant green check mark on one of my top priorities for the Oregon offense coming into this year. My everydayers might remember this from the August shows I did, or any number of shows throughout the summer. Last year, Oregon didn't create explosives in the run game. They have done that, I believe, as well as anybody in the country this season. They've been exceptionally good, and you haven't seen a lot. Yes, the running back depth helps with De'Aaron Hill and Jordan Davison, whereas last year you had Jordan James and then Noah Whittington took half the season to really get himself going. So you have better running back depth. That helps. The offensive line is a part of it as well. And is the O-line playing great every single game? No. But are they playing poorly? Also, no. This is a well above average offensive line. I don't think that they are perfect. You also have to remember, though, sacks can often be a function of the offensive line. They are also sometimes on the quarterback. Perfect example, a play that I detailed here on the show on, I think it was Monday. The 4th and 2 early in the game, Dante Moore winds up getting sacked. He has 2 guys that are actually open, and he doesn't trust Gary Bryant to separate, I guess, or didn't like the look with where the corner was positioned. He wound up being open on the out. He doesn't see Sadiq on the drag. He holds the ball for a while, and then he gets sacked. That's not the offensive line not doing its job. It is not reasonable, particularly in a conference game. I don't care who exactly you're playing, to say, hey, in every single situation, you have to give Dante Moore 7 to 10 seconds just because the other team isn't any good. Go look at the heights and weights of the guys Wisconsin has on defense. Go look at the way they've played this year and watch the tape on it. Like, they got a couple solid players over there. They're just not a very good football team that's well coached holistically. But I think that some of those sacks have been on Dante Moore. Some of those sacks have definitely been on the offensive line. I don't think the offensive line's a major concern, but they're about to get a bigger test. I don't doubt that. Phil Parker, who made a comment, and I'm sure Dan Lanning heard it, about Oregon being well-funded. I think he said something to that extent. Hold on, let me find it real quick. Phil Parker is Iowa's defensive coordinator, who is one of the best coordinators in all of college football. He has been for a very long time. And he said, quote, "They have the whole package. It's well-funded. I'll put it that way." Like, all right, you poke the bear that is Dan Lanning at your own peril. Do whatever you like, Coach. Best of luck with that. But I think that for Oregon's offensive line, they're kind of the inverse of last year. They weren't a bad running team last year. They just weren't as great as you'd like them to be, or as great as past offensive lines have been. This year, they're a very good running team. Last year, they were elite in pass protection. This year, they're good. I don't think they're great, as good as they've been in years past, particularly the tackles. I think Isaiah World and Alex Harkey, they're making jumps up from the group of 5 level, and I think that showed at times. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that these guys have been weaknesses, that they've been terrible or awful. The rotation on the right side of the offensive line has not involved Alex Harkey coming out of the game. It involves some shifting to right guard sometimes as they mix and match and figure out what formula works. But he's not a liability out there, and Isaiah World is not a liability out there either. There are just some moments where they get beat. World sometimes can struggle with speed rushers that can get around him. And Alex Harkey, I think, has had the same issue at times, but I don't think it's been a prolonged problem. So, yeah, I'm going to 1 on, Oregon needs a new offensive line coach, because the offensive line, again, is good. Is it the best in the country? No. But is it good enough to get Oregon to, the playoff and win a game or two? Yeah, I think it is. And at some level, that's all you can ask for. I think there's another gear. Not that Oregon's incapable of having a unit better than this. They are, but I think that this is a really good group. Poncho and Emmanuel Prainon, you have 2 NFL offensive linemen right there. So if you're going to the offensive line coach and saying, well, he hasn't done these things, well, what about the third-year guy who has been developed perfectly at Oregon, is probably off to the NFL after the season? What about the guy they went and got from USC and is playing better than he ever has? I think you got to give him credit for that as well. The Duck Abides sends this one in. SSA, Dan's approach to job openings and offers is a masterclass in leadership that we can all learn from. Bloom where you are planted. The grass isn't always greener, and if you keep doing the right things, the right opportunities will always be there when the time comes to make a change. That can be a good life lesson. I like that one. A masterclass in leadership we can all learn from. Yeah, I'll give that one a 10. I'll give that one a 10. I think that I just thought about that kind of message for me in my own career, and that resonated very strongly. That's a 10. You don't see that very often on Spencer's scale of agreement, but it is possible. It's also possible that what I'm going to talk about, Evan Stewart, that one's a 10 as well. First, this episode brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is Training Reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. You'll love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. It's like if you had Wilson Love in computer form. That's Oregon's strength and conditioning coach for the football team. And you digitized him and gave him to you. Peloton is bringing that sort of technology your way. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's OnePeloton.com, onepeloton.com. This question from Wasted Rock Ranger. Okay. Hope all is awesome. So, Evan Stewart, all is awesome. It's good. Life's good. I'm enjoying it. Appreciate you tuning into the show. All of you. for that matter. If he comes back, what games can he play and still medically redshirt? I know they get 4 games or whatever, but do playoffs count? Thanks for everything. Love your show, man. And when you make it back to Eugene, let me know. We'll always let you guys know whenever we can meet up. There aren't that many chances for it, but that's one of the reasons a home playoff game would be cool. Like, I would love it for you guys, the Oregon fans, for Autzen and the university and all that. And because, of course, Oregon would be in the playoff and they have a better chance to win at home than on the road. But if they have a home playoff game, high possibility that I'd be able to go. So that'd be the one Oregon game I could make this season in all likelihood. But on the medical redshirt front, the qualities is not the right word. The qualifications generally to get a medical redshirt, every example can be different. A waiver has to be applied for. I don't know, by the way. This is just, could Oregon do it if they wanted to? The answer is yes. The injury has to occur before the second half of the season, and you have to play in no more than 30% of your team's games for football. That number is 4. 30% is kind of the blanket number for a variety of other sports, but for football, it's 4 games. Now, my understanding is that the postseason has not typically counted for that. And because Evan Stewart, we're going into game number 9 next week. I've heard some people think Evan Stewart could play. I've heard that's not as likely, and that USC is kind of the target return date there. So it might not even matter if the postseason games count or not. But regardless, for Evan Stewart, who absolutely is someone that can play in the NFL, yeah, it'd be awesome to have him back next year. And if that relationship with the staff, which by all accounts I've heard is solid, if that is something he wants to do, I suspect Oregon would go to the NCAA and say, hey, can we get a medical redshirt for this guy? Because he was injured before the season began, and it doesn't have to be something that happens during the season. The language just says the injury has to take place before the midway point of the season, which of course it did because Evan Stewart was hurt in the offseason. And then he can't play in more than 30% of the scheduled games. That's the language. So I don't think that would apply to postseason because that's not a scheduled game. So if the only regular season games he plays in are Washington and USC, the last 2 of the year, I don't see how the NCAA would deny him. And the NCAA goes back and forth with this sort of stuff, but he should meet the criteria in theory. And if he were to come back next year and you put on the field a receiving core of Evan Stewart, second year Dante Moore, Jeremiah McLaughlin, and Gatlin Bear coming in, Oregon is so unbelievably set. The talent in that room is phenomenally awesome. Junior Adams did a great job, and Ross Douglas hopefully keeps things rolling along there because that has been a really fun thing to see. So, yeah, I'd love for Evan Stewart to come back. Anytime you can put another weapon out on the field. And, I talked earlier this week and will a little more at some point about, the lack of statistical maximizing for Kenyon Sadiq and Dante Moore. I think the positives outweigh the negatives of getting him back into the fold. So, yeah, would definitely love to see that. And he should be able to qualify. I never want to say anything declaratively with the NCAA. They didn't give N'Faly Dante another year of eligibility. Meanwhile, Tyon Grant Foster, who I've met, is an awesome guy. I've called his games before. They played Southern Utah when he was at GCU. Like he's a really good dude. I don't say this as ill will towards him. He just got approved by a judge to play for another year. His career, which has been unique, he had a very serious medical condition that caused him to miss some time. He began his college career in the 2018-19 campaign. I think that was his first, or that was the recruiting class he was a part of. We're in 2025. So hopefully Evan Stewart should be able to check all those boxes pretty easily. Going back to the Wisconsin game, this one from Duck2081A. SSA, the original game plan was for bad weather the whole game, tried to change scheme when mindset was wet and time-consuming drives. Okay, I see what you're asking. No, I don't think so. Oregon didn't come out and not try to throw the ball early in the game when it wasn't raining on Saturday. No, that's That's a 2 for me. It's not a 1 because you mentioned the mindset kind of changing in there once the rain came. I agree with that. Oregon we just have to run the ball downhill consistently. I think they could have done that all game, but as I talked about earlier this week, for those that missed it, I don't think Oregon had the right energy, the right mentality early in that game to enforce their will like they did in the second half. That Oregon scored 14 points in the second half when it started raining more and Dante Moore was out of the game was a testament to one thing and one thing only. They physically imposed their will on Wisconsin. Should they have been able to do that in the first quarter? Yes, absolutely. Why weren't they? We're dealing with 18 to 20-year-old kids. A lot of factors at play. So, yeah, that one is a 2. I'll wrap with this. Bow before my trivia knowledge because Sammy Parker is the correct answer to Tuesday trivia. Which Oregon receiver has the most career yards with the Ducks since 2000? I debated a number of names. I landed on Sammy Parker, and alas, I was correct. I'm pretty proud of that one. I am pretty proud of that one. So I feel like when I get a Final Jeopardy clue right, just going to carry that with me into the rest of the night. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.